Welcome to today's episode of Print to Pixel, the podcast where we talk to marketing leaders and technologists about how omni-channel marketing is revolutionizing the way that direct mail is used by marketers. I'm excited today to introduce Mark Becker, founding partner of Cathexis Partners. Mark focuses on assisting nonprofits to maximize the technology they have and the technology they need. His experience in CRM and CMS software solutions help nonprofits maximize existing tools, assess and identify gaps, and find the best strategies to accomplish their missions. Mark, welcome to Print to Pixel.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you as well. Really appreciate it. I know our teams met up at the Bridge Conference outside of Washington a few weeks ago, which is really a kind of a gathering point for a lot of folks in the nonprofit industry. And since we're in marketing tech and we work with a lot of nonprofits, you're in marketing tech, we thought it made a ton of sense for us to get together. So super excited to have you.
Yeah, the Bridge Conference is definitely an interesting conference. A lot of different folks there. Very, very direct marketing heavy, but also I've been seeing it the last few years get more and more into the technology behind it. Very excited to see those advances, not only in the Bridge Conference, but kind of representing across the industry.
Yes. We're excited to bring direct mail into the 21st century here and make it stand alongside email and digital and a tool that nonprofits can use to deploy as a strategic weapon rather than a batch and blast thing that they
so needed. Yeah.
Cool.
Well done.
Well, Mark, our audience loves to hear how our guests got to the place where they are in their lives from a career standpoint. And so if you could start by telling us your story. How did Mark Becker become Mark Becker and at this place in time in Cathexis Partners? How did Cathexis get started? And give us the background.
Sure. Well, this gray hair isn't a fashion choice. It's real. So I'll try to make this story as short as I can. But this goes back before the turn of the century. I'm bringing that term back because we need to use that more for this turn of the century than the previous. And I was a IT project manager in the corporate space. And in the summers, I was in Chicago at the time. I now live in Central Florida, but in the summers when the Susan G. Komen 3-Day would come through town, I would volunteer there. I never walked the 3-Day, but did volunteer throughout the weekends in Chicago. And because my mother passed away from breast cancer, and later my wife also, she's a breast cancer survivor. And as a lot of people are affected by breast cancer, it was great to be able to do a small little bit and see the community come together and really fighting for a solution and support of folks with breast cancer. So that's where I started out volunteering. And then the last corporate IT project job I had, we were very good. We were very efficient, and it resulted in myself and approximately 200 other IT folks losing their jobs because we found efficiencies. Well done, me. But in hindsight, and even at the time, I knew that was a good thing, right? It's time to move on to the next chapter. So it was coming around to summertime again. So I went out to the 3-Day website and thought I would just invest more in kind of my volunteerism throughout the season. But then I saw down at the bottom of the website an opening for a CRM project manager. I'm like, I can do that. I didn't know what Conterra was at the time. And Conterra, for those that are into peer-to-peer fundraising, was one of the original OG peer-to-peer fundraising platforms. But I quickly learned how to support it. Worked for a company called Event 360, which was handled all the production and the website and everything for the 3-Day. And then I started going to conferences, nonprofit industry conferences like Bridge, AFP was big at the time, different vendor conferences, and listening to folks, interacting with them. Hearing all the the challenges and pain points that they were having with their technology. And I just realized, okay, it's really not that hard. All you have to do is this, this, and this. And I realized, no, they don't want to do this, this, and this. They want to focus on their mission. So I decided I should do this, this, and this, and decided to start Cathexis Partners in 2008, right when the market crashed, actually. So coming up on 16 years ago now. And the name of the company, Cathexis, it's a real word. I think it's Greek in origin. It means the investment of emotional energy in an object or idea. And I thought that was just kind of fitting for the nonprofit space. So we are platform agnostic, but we help organizations find and use technology, nonprofit organizations of all sizes. We work with very large national affiliate model organizations like now Susan G. Komen and the 3 Days come full circle, and they are a client of ours, for example, all the way down to very small one-person volunteer shops that are just trying to do good things and just need a little help here and there. So we partner with a variety of different platforms: Salesforce, Blackbaud, Virtuous, Bloomerang, a ton of different CRM and software vendors. Fundraise Up is another great partner. So we really help organizations find and use technology, like I said. And what I've gotten really good at is saying, well, we don't do that, or we do that, but we know someone that does it better. And through all these years, made a ton of connections. The Bridge Conference was great, not only to meet potential new clients, but also just talk to our partners and catch up. And that's what it's all about, is really finding out who the right people are in the industry. And it was great connecting with your team there and seeing what you have to offer. And because there's always different pieces of the puzzle, right? How can technology make things easier for folks and really streamline and automate the process for them? So that's a bit of my story.
That's great. And from my observation, the nonprofit world does need assistance in the selection and the setup, the construction of their tech stack. And so it sounds like you're filling a real need out there. And I love that it's mission driven. And, my mom also passed away of breast cancer. And my wife has done the Susan Komen 3-day several times. And it's a tremendous operation and an amazing organization. So I certainly applaud you for both the origin as well as your ongoing work. It's makes a huge difference in many people's lives.
Well, good for her for walking it too. That's no small feat.
Yeah, she's a big time walker. So, as I think everybody's aware, direct mail is a huge part of the nonprofit fundraising world, and it's been a long time big channel for the nonprofit world. But I think more recently, in the last 20 years, technology is becoming more of an emphasis. And and part of why we started Postalytics is we saw that gap, right, between the way people use direct mail and the workflows associated with it, and then the technology investments that they're making. Let's talk about the nonprofit world a little bit, and that core work that you're doing to help organizations with their technology strategy, and buying technology, implementing it. What are some of the issues that you see as nonprofits of different sizes are going through this process of figuring out what technology to use and then making it all happen? Give us a sense of what you see out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of different things, but I think some mistakes that are easy for folks to make is going to a conference like the Bridge Conference and going, oh, we need some technology. Let's go talk to people. And they should do that 100%, but they should know what their requirements are before then, and really have a clear understanding of what all of their stakeholders' need of the software, because quite often they'll go to these conferences or respond to an email, marketing email about a particular platform, and they're going to show you all the really shiny, polished things, right? And that's great, AI and whatever else the latest buzzwords are. All the things you can automate is terrific, but can it do the basics? Can it do receipting the way you need it to do? Can it manage household relationships the way you need it to do? If you're talking about a CRM, it does it integrate with the systems you use on a regular basis, and how long does it take to get something from your CRM out to turn it into a direct mail piece, and what does that look like? How many hours does a staff member have to do that? And so making sure that before you start the process really what your requirements are across the entire organization, and then then seeing all the things that are possible from the different vendors and allowing them their moment to shine and show off their really interesting, cool, fun stuff, but making sure that even the basics are in place is one of the biggest challenges I see is people kind of get wrapped up or kind of get diverted away from what's really important because of the shiny.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that, and every vendor is going to focus on the things that they do really well and their success stories. Uh, it, let's go there for a moment. Let's talk about successes that you've been involved in, and what type of impact can a well-defined and well-implemented technology project have on a nonprofit's operation?
Yeah, some examples that come to mind without naming names are organizations that were looking to change vendors for a variety of reasons, but and we're concerned about costs and where their current vendor was taking them. But in some cases, they ended up spending more money with the new platform, but then saving so much time in just all of the automation and different elements brought into communications, direct mail, email marketing, being able to create journeys and looking at omni-channel communications is just one example of, even if it does potentially cost more money, in the end, they're in a much better place, and they are actually saving money when you look at the big picture in, freeing up their staff to do more important things around the mission.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the amount of time that can be saved by automating manual tasks, semi-manual tasks, email-based workflows is truly it adds up to be a massive savings over time. And so you're right. Even if you're paying a little bit more for something, if there's such operational efficiencies that can be gained by paying a little bit more, then you're enabling your staff to do a lot more and have fewer people doing more things, and so ultimately there is a savings. It's just a matter of making that investment and getting all of those workflows configured properly.
And quite often you can, actually resulting in saving money as well. I don't want to make it seem like you have to always spend more money, but you have to be open to new ways of thinking. And I think that's where a lot of organizations get in trouble. And I understand it. Inertia is a very powerful thing, right? This is the way we've always done it. This is what we're used to. This isn't great, but it's, we're getting through. So let's just rinse and repeat. I get it. There's other things to focus on. You have all these plates spinning, but if you do take the time and put together like a 5-year plan of all your technology and where you want to, where your mission statement is and where your goals are there, and then help make sure your technology is aligned to help get you there, and then refresh that on an annual basis and keep it moving forward. I think you'll be in a much better spot, in the long run.
Completely agree. No question about that. Change is hard sometimes, and and doing things the way we've always do them, has always done them, is easier sometimes than uh, uh, disrupting your current workflows. But ultimately, if you're going to scale something, you have to do it. You have to make that investment. Um, let's talk about some of the leading players in that tech stack for nonprofits. You mentioned Salesforce and Blackbaud and Bloomerang and Virtuous. Uh, Help us understand the landscape a little bit. What types of nonprofits do you see moving into which types of platforms, and give us a sense of what you're seeing in the market currently.
Yeah, I think it's a great time, especially for the small, very small starter, kind of volunteer driven, up to $1 million in revenue. I think it's a very interesting time for those nonprofits to really be able to take advantage of the technology out there, because there's so many vendors now that are giving away their products for free as a kind of proof of concept, and they're still making money on the transactions, which is fair, right? They have to make some money, and more than likely they're doing it in a way that they're allowing the donors to cover the transaction fees, and therefore also the product fees in some cases, so that potentially you have a zero cost to the nonprofits. So for those very small organizations, if they're still out there using spreadsheets or SQL or whatever they might be doing, stop it immediately, and look at things like GiveButter, Fundraise. There's a litany of options, and GiveButter is a great example. They don't charge for their platform at all, and they make it up in again, tips or transaction fees, but they just received, I think it was 50 million in private funding to do R&D and invest in their platform. So there is, definitely private sector is very interested in this market, the recurring revenue potential, subscription models. All nonprofits are very interested in trying to get those recurring donations, and so that is being fed by the platforms being able to get into that space and show a real interest, and therefore investing in technology. And it starts at that lower end of the stack, which I think is really interesting in all the different ways that they're offering up solutions to people. And then you move up, the different product stack, mid-market, you kind of have the Razor's Edge, you have Reactions, which is now operated by Bonterra under the Bonterra umbrella. Salsa is part of that Bonterra. So they're still running Salsa, but looking at really sunsetting that someday in lieu of moving everybody over to Every Action. There's Donor Perfect, but I think Virtuous in that space has really got a sweet spot. There's also Bloomerang that kind of goes from the low to mid range. And I think that's a really powerful tool that was developed by Jay Love, who originally developed eTapestry, and then was acquired by Blackbaud, and took his learnings from that and came up with a newer product, developed new software. So I think it's a really interesting time. And Salesforce is changing their whole strategy with the nonprofit cloud now. Instead of NPSP, they're still offering NPSP. And Microsoft Dynamics is definitely very heavy into the nonprofit space, more internationally, but very eager to do more in the and they do have several large clients in the US as well. So I think it's a very interesting time, and that's just looking at the CRM side of things. Then there's all the other pieces.
Yeah, that's amazing that the market has blossomed like this, and there's so many players that are out there that are finding a position in the market and serving particular sectors very well. Um, and obviously Salesforce and Microsoft are some of the biggest technology companies
Mm-hmm.
in history, and if they're weighing in on this sector, that really shows that there's a tremendous amount of momentum, and that that the nonprofit world is really benefiting from these investments. I find
That's right.
that lower end and mid market dynamic interesting also. That's super interesting about how Give Butter has it really sounds like it's kind of revolutionized that ability for a really small nonprofit to put in some powerful technology and then pay for it as you use it.
Exactly.
And we've done something similar. We have a free version of Postalytics that allows you to send mail, as much mail as you want, and you don't get access to some of the features, but you can do a lot through it. You pay a little bit more per piece of mail that you send, but it really gives you a way to either, if you're a very small nonprofit, if you're sending 200, 300, 500 pieces of mail, whatever, a month, it doesn't matter. You can send 10 pieces of mail and it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And then that mid-market seems like there's a lot of activity there. There's a lot of players that are kind of duking it out in that mid-market.
Yeah, for sure.
Edge from Blackbaud has been kind of the big institutional player for a long time. Is that accurate?
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's on one of the Razor's Edge users group, I came across an image. I had to swipe it of somebody that had taken a picture of all their floppy disks when they installed the original Razor's Edge on floppy disk, and I'm like, oh, that's an image I need to keep for prosperity because that's how far that goes back. Now they have NXT and the WebView and all that. They're looking to really move out of the database view, the legacy. RE7 was the last big version they did of that, in the legacy view, and they put the middleware on top, basically, which is NXT, which is a smart marketing move on their part, right? No one had to migrate their data to make this happen. And now that when they make the overall cut over, it's going to be slightly different, but they're going to make it as efficient as they can. But yeah, they've been around for a while, and they realize that they need to up their game and continue to innovate to keep up, right?
That's great. I also am aware that there are some really smart, savvy players in the HubSpot ecosystem that are investing heavily in the nonprofit space, which I think is great news for the nonprofit world.
Oh, for sure.
In the commercial markets, HubSpot has really exploded and kind of taken over a lot of that mid-market in a lot of different industries. And so, I think about this organization, Digital Reach, it's a diamond HubSpot partner, and they have basically turned their company almost entirely to focus on implementing HubSpot in nonprofits, and so I think that will only add to this kind of powerful mix of companies focusing on that layer of the nonprofit world.
I agree. Yeah. HubSpot itself, I think, is definitely, interested in the space, but I'm not sure if they always know how to talk with, the nonprofit marketers. So it's good to hear, someone like Digital Reach is helping kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah. So let's touch a little bit about direct mail and in relation to technology. And it's obviously something I'm very passionate about, and we at Postalytics are working hard every day to what we say is remove the friction from direct mail, and so from a pain point standpoint, if you look at the current kind of legacy direct mail workflow that's very spreadsheet based, how would you identify a pain point that the nonprofit world should be thinking about as they're considering how they're looking at direct mail?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the time to deliver and the hours it takes to make happen. Not to mention data security, right? All of that is something that just needs to and is being addressed with the solutions like yours, right? Is how can we get the data more efficiently out of our CRM, database of record, data lake, data warehouse, whatever we have, and get it into print form and out to our audience as cost effectively and time efficiently as possible, right? And also securely. And that's definitely one that needs to be addressed. And thank goodness, folks like you are looking at ways to do that and getting direct access into CRMs and making it all much more automated.
Yeah. The notion of spending hours, days, weeks massaging data sitting in spreadsheets that you're emailing around to different people inside of the organization, different people outside the organization, print partners, mail shops, and having that data just sitting in a spreadsheet with all these people's hands in it. It seems like such a 1990s approach to a critical technology or a critical marketing channel for nonprofits. And, that data's sitting in a silo. It's a silo called Excel.
Exactly.
It's not doing anything with the rest of this stack that you've invested in. And so,
and it's static. And as soon as you pull that report, it's there. It's got a date stamp on it, and every second that it takes to get from that CRM to the actual list creation and distribution, it's out of date instantaneously.
Yeah. Well said. Great. Mark, it's been really wonderful having you on Print to Pixel here today. I understand that you also run a podcast. Why don't you tell the guests a little bit about your podcasts and where they could find you if they have questions, they want to reach out and talk to you?
Yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity. Nonprofit Pro does a podcast called Nonprofit Voice, and I guest host that. They were nice enough to invite me to guest host and talk with folks about technology in the nonprofit space on a regular basis. So, check out Nonprofit Voice. And if you have any great topics that would love to out there, anybody listening, would love to have you, bring them up to us. But we're always, recently talked about Salesforce and the MPC changes with the nonprofit cloud versus MPSP and how the environment is dealing with that and approaching it. And it's always something interesting going on out there, as in your world, right? So thank you so much for the opportunity to chat today. It was great.
Absolutely. And if somebody wanted to track you down, what would be the best way to reach out to Mark Becker?
Yeah, check out, well, you got to spell Cathexis, right? Do LinkedIn, Mark Becker, probably the easiest way, but cathexispartners.com. And I'm just Mark at, and love to chat. And we have a lot of great resources. We believe in a lot of thought leadership that we work with our client partners and our vendor partners to put out there to make sure that everybody's learning from each other. So check out the website.
Excellent. So all you nonprofits out there, you need help with your marketing tech, reach out to Mark Becker at Cathexis Partners. Cathexispartners.com. Was that it?
That's right. Yep.
That's right. Mark at cathexispartners.com, and he'll help you out. So again, Mark, thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll look forward to talking to you again real soon.
All right. Thank you.